What's up, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Today, going to be going over just kind of some general news and notes, as well as a handful of the players that have kind of stood out to me so far as kind of pleasant surprises. I know camp is still early; the pads just came on, but why not talk about it anyway? I'm going to go over the 5 players that I think have been pleasant surprises up until this point. But before I get there, I need to start off by issuing an apology. I need to apologize to Shamar Jean-Charles. I believe that's the correct pronunciation. Apparently, per Wes Hodkiewicz of the one and only Packers.com, somebody named Caroline wrote in to Packers.com and said, "Will you please let Andy Herman know that Shamar Jean-Charles is pronounced Shamar John Charles, according to Packers.com. I'm not on Twitter, or I do it myself. Thank you." So I don't know, where, if she didn't see it on Twitter, I guess if you were listening to one of the podcasts, but you could have replied back either on YouTube or whatever. It doesn't matter. So apparently I've been saying it wrong. So thank you, Caroline. I wish I had that much time in my day to write to Packers.com about name pronunciations, but to be fair, I was incorrect, and I have now learned something. So Shamar, I'm gonna say that it's Jean-Claude Van Damme style here, like Jean. I'm gonna say it's Shamar Jean Charles and not Shamar John Charles. That doesn't seem right. So maybe Caroline can write into Wes again if I'm now saying it incorrectly as well. But I'm gonna go with Shamar Jean Charles, and if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, just let me know in the comments below, I guess. But apologies to Shamar. Hopefully I now have it right. Shamar Jean Charles. I will no longer call you Shamar Jean Charles, because apparently that is a big faux pas. So my apologies. Let's move on. We did have some very interesting news and notes that did come about in kind of the last 24 plus hours or so. So I think the biggest piece of news was Josiah DeGuara, and he has officially passed his physical, and he is now going to be off of the PUP list, which is really big news for Green Bay. This is somebody who was injured very early in the regular season last year. And, with ACLs, you just never know, right? So, you could have said that he was out, 4-6 weeks of this season to start off, and that wouldn't have been insanely shocking, but he's looked really good running around. I took a video on Tuesday's practice of DeGuara because he was making some quick cuts. He was catching some passes. He looked good. You still never know, right? Until you get the clearance from the doctors, you don't know when that's going to come. But that's a very big step for DeGuara, and hopefully getting back to what looked like was going to be a fairly significant role with the Packers is in that H-back, fullback / tight end role. And again, his ability on special teams and what he's going to bring to this offense is kind of a Swiss Army knife. There's a lot of uses there for DeGuara. So hopefully he can get back in the swing of things, but this is a really, really big step for this offense and a big step for DeGuara. So great to see that he has passed his physical. We'll see. My guess is they take things slow with him still. My guess is maybe he starts doing individual work with the tight ends and H-backs or whatever on Thursday, and probably doesn't progress to team activities quite yet, would be my guess. But we'll see on Thursday, or today as you're listening to this. And I'm just excited to see that he cleared, and we'll see what he does on practice on Thursday. Josh Avery, big defensive tackle, was signed to the roster. Uber athletic player, not a ton of experience, so he's more of just kind of one of those upside type players. But we've seen these sort of things before, and they turn out every now and again. So he'll try to fight his way into the practice squad conversation first. But super athletic, which is sort of the Brian Gutekunst MO, and we'll kind of see what he looks like at practice. He's another player I'll try to keep an eye out for on Thursday, just to see what he kind of brings to the table. But again, super athletic, young, and again, we'll try to make a name for himself to try to see if he can get on the practice squad. Ray Wilborn, linebacker, maybe not a household name for most, but he was on the injured list. He has also now been activated. So again, if you're a Ray Wilborn, you need to get out there and practicing as much as possible to show what you're capable of. So he will be out there on Thursday, ideally as well. That's what it sounds like it's going to be. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And then sort of on the bad news side of things, Kamal Martin it sounds like is going to miss some time, according to Matt LaFleur in his press conference from Wednesday. So Martin, actually, interestingly enough, was getting some snaps not only at inside linebacker, but outside linebacker. Of course, Randy Ramsey's now injured. So you've kind of got that spot open as a player who could maybe drop in coverage a little bit, maybe do a little rushing the passer. This is a player that could play special teams at that, regardless if he's inside or outside, he's going to be counted on as a player that needs to contribute on special teams. So when we talked about that Randy Ramsey fourth outside linebacker position, what I've set up to this point is I would have expected Ramsey to be the fourth outside linebacker based on special teams, because even though I think Jonathan Garvin is the better pure edge rusher and pass rusher, and probably even at setting the edge against the run, he can't play teams, or at least he hasn't up until this point. So if you're going to activate somebody on game day, you're going to put Ramsey in ahead of Jonathan Garvin. Well, if Ramsey can't play, this is giving a Kamal Martin an opportunity to maybe be that fourth edge rusher on game days, save a roster spot, not activate Garvin, and use that spot somewhere else. Because again, Martin could play inside, he could play outside, he could play special teams. One of those things where the more you can do for your team, the better. However, again, unfortunately, it sounds like Martin's going to miss at least a little bit of time with an injury. So we'll see. Hopefully he can get back sooner rather than later, and certainly he can use the reps. Another interesting thing is he's really been third team at inside linebacker. I know there's been a lot of people who've been hoping that Kamal Martin was going to be a breakout candidate. That has not happened thus far. Really, everyone has been ahead of him at inside linebacker, including Devondre Campbell, Chris Barnes, Ty Summers, and Oren Burks. And, Isaiah McDuffie hasn't even been healthy yet. So Martin's got work ahead of him, and the sooner he can get back, the better. Let's get to main topic today. My 5 pleasant surprises from training camp so far. I don't think number one's going to surprise you at all, and a couple of these I kind of discussed over the last couple episodes. But Juwann Winfree, just coming in and starting to make a name for himself in a wide receiver competition that going in, let's be real, he didn't have any chance, right? Especially once they traded for Randall Cobb. Already, even pre-Randall Cobb, you're fighting with Malik Taylor, who was a 53-man roster guy all last year, who they obviously felt great about to cut Jake Kumerow for, we're not even going to get into that right now. But and then to be a core special teams player, Malik Taylor, somebody they think highly of, Equanimeous St. Brown, Devin Funchess, he was not even really considered to be in the conversation with those guys. Then you get Randall Cobb and it becomes even tougher. But he's right there now. He's in the conversation for a final roster spot at wide receiver. His route running looks so much better. He's gaining separation. His hands look stronger. He just looks like a totally different receiver out there. And whether or not that amounts to an actual 53-man roster spot, even as well as he's played, I'm still skeptical just because of the depth that's at the wide receiver position right now. But there's zero question that the breakout player of camp, minicamp, OTA, etc. so far has been Juwann Winfree. Now, he's coming from nothing, right? He didn't show anything a season ago when they acquired him. There was no Juwann Winfree buzz at any point. So it's sometimes a little bit easier to go from nothing into a talking point, right? It's harder if you've already been established and now you need to take another jump up or things like that. So again, every single year, and I've gone over this in a few different episodes already, there's 2 or 3 wide receivers, it seems, that everyone falls in love with, and they're going to be the next great thing. I'm not ready to anoint Juwann Winfree anything yet, other than the breakout player of training camp and OTAs and minicamp of the offseason. Let's put it that way. So he's looked really, really good. We'll see if he can continue that. Had great success against Eric Stokes the other day. Now let's see if he can start maybe getting some wins against Jair and others, right? So we'll see what happens, but he's definitely been the standout of the offseason so far. Number 2 is Dexter Williams, another player that, if I'm being honest, I kind of wrote off as done. He's had some opportunities the last couple seasons. It seemed like he kind of got in the doghouse in his rookie year, never really got out, never was really able to establish anything a season ago, especially, Jones, Williams, and Dillon a season ago, right? So it's just and then plus they had Tyler Ervin on the roster. There's just no space for him. So now he's in his 3rd year, hasn't shown anything. It's really tough to, again, all of a sudden, just kind of be a breakout guy out of nowhere. But I thought he's run really, really well so far in training camp. And again, pads just came on. But where you would want him to be at this point to be in the conversation for that number 3 spot, he's done all the right things. And as I mentioned, Kylan Hill is the more talented player. I think Patrick Taylor is a more talented player. But Dexter Williams, you can see the progression of just his where he's at in his career and some of the nuances that he's learned over the last couple seasons, he's more polished at this point than Taylor and Kylan Hill. Now, whether that can beat out the raw talent of those guys, especially Kylan, remains to be seen, but I think he's been a really nice surprise with how he's put together a really nice camp so far and just done, again, everything that's been asked to him up until this point. Number 3 is Bobby Tonyan. I talked about this a little bit the other day, but sometimes you wonder if is somebody going to be a one-year wonder? You put that together, and maybe what I think a lot of the questions with Tonyan is, well, was he just a figment of the offense, right? Was his success due to having Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones, and Tonyan just took advantage of the defense focusing everywhere else, or was he just a again, a piece of Matt LaFleur's, incredible play calling and being able to scheme open tight ends? Like, I think all those questions were there. I never really necessarily agreed with any of them, but he shows even more confidence. He looks better. He looks quicker. He looks faster. His hands look better. Like, he looks fantastic this offseason. So I think he's ready for more. I think he's ready to take on more responsibility. You can see him learning even more as a blocker from Mercedes Lewis. He's just becoming a really, really good all-around tight end. And who knows what the ceiling is for that, but I don't think last year was a fluke, and he, again, looks like he's continuing to get better day in and day out. Number 4, Elgton Jenkins, another player that I've been talking up so far, and I think he's starting to generate some buzz for how he's looked at practice. I mean, there's a moment at practice the other day where Elgton Jenkins and David Bakhtiari were talking to one another, and Marcus Eversole and I were chatting, and I said, I looked over and I said, Elton's telling David right now, this left tackle thing's not so hard, man. You got a huge contract. Like, this is easy, because Elgton Jenkins is out there at left tackle making everything look insanely easy right now. So he is nothing short of just a fantastic football player who can play so many different positions. He's getting better. And I think this is the best he's looked in any training camp. And again, you'd expect that in his 3rd season, but he's playing left tackle. Like, he's a guard playing left tackle. We're just past that at this point. He's an offensive lineman. Doesn't matter. Whatever spot you need, fill in the other 4 guys at their best spots, put Elgton at the 5th one, and he's going to go out and crush it. And it's just been really a sight to see how well he's performed at camp this year. And the number 5, my last pleasant surprise, is Ben Braden. And again, this is a player where if any of you, or if I would have been told that, Ben Braden wasn't coming back, or they released him prior to the start of, mini camps or OTAs, nobody would have even batted an eye. And then, of course, we had the comments that, he was going to compete for a starting spot, and we're like, okay, let's see. He's right there. Like, he's competing with John Runyan Jr. and Lucas Patrick. He looks good. The offense looks very much in sync when he's out there. There's no drop off in play. And even if he doesn't end up starting, this is a player who has, probably 4 position versus. I think he can play either tackle spot or guard, in a pinch, as well as left guard, right guard. Not sure he could play center, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. Great versatility. He's very athletic, and he looks good enough to be, and we'll see again when he gets in there against live competition, right? But so far he looks good enough that you could put him in and not have any sort of major drop off. And as we know, you need 7, 8, maybe even 9 offensive linemen through the course of the season. So the fact that even, again, if he doesn't start, you could have Dennis Kelly and Ben Braden, and then once Bakhtiari comes back, potentially a John Runyan Jr. or a Lucas Patrick on the bench as well. Green Bay's really built up some really nice depth on their offensive line. They're going to need it this season, but Ben Braden's a big part of that, and again, another really nice, pleasant surprise. So Winfree, Dexter Williams, Robert Tonyan, Elgton Jenkins, and Ben Braden, my pleasant surprises so far. Notice anything? No defenders. Could maybe put a TJ Slayton in there. He's had his moments. I think Chris Barnes looks better. I think he's coming along nicely. But there's not a defender that I would say holy cow, look at the jump they've made, or they've been a really pleasant surprise. Defense has been behind so far, and we'll see if that continues now that pads are on. Hopefully Zadarius Smith can get back sooner rather than later. But at some point, you need to start doing a little bit better. They did, have a couple big interceptions. Slayton, Jair Alexander, and Alexander looks phenomenal, right? So it's not like and Rashawn Gary's been good. It's not like everything's been bad, but the defense has been behind, and there's not anyone that I can say is just standing out or that it's taken a major jump or anything like that. So offense continues to look good. There've been some standout players from the offensive side of the ball. Hopefully, next couple weeks we can get some defenders that start standing out as well. It's going to do it for me today. Thanks as always for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I'll be right back here tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.